Hey guys, so I kind of wanted to come and do a live commentary on the gameplay we recorded from Vegas. Kind of give you guys some more insight to what was going on, what you're seeing on screen, and kind of some things that maybe weren't entirely clear when you were watching it. So this is obviously the opening cinematic. The narrative here is that you are, well, Sancha have attacked a Minmatar battleship, presumably in the Molten Heath region. And this is a problem because while, you know, starships certainly have the ability to fend off threats from a distance, once you have something on the surface of the ship, they're not really equipped to deal with it. So that's where we come in. Aegis, which is the newly formed Concord infantry division made up of basically the leftovers from Dust. Kind of some unknown lore there, but it's some shady stuff. But so you've been deployed to the ship here, and if you're noticing when you start, the Sancha are already here, which is kind of a problem because obviously you're responding to an attack. You aren't there ahead of time. So when you arrive, there's already infantry on the surface of the ship. So you're already placed in a position where you are, you know, fighting an uphill battle, so to speak. And you have like 60 seconds to basically secure an objective while fending off whatever Sancha already on the ship. And then once that 60 seconds is up, then like the main boarding party arrives, and that's when it all kind of goes to shit. So the thing is that currently, when you need to respawn, you have to have a captured objective in order to respawn. So if you wipe, your whole team dies before you actually capture an objective, you lose like immediately. So getting that first objective is super critical. It's very brutal. Supposedly, as you get to higher difficulties, you're going to have a lot harder time getting that first objective because they're already going to be overrun with Sancha. They're already capturing the points, and that's going to be tricky. So you can see I captured C there, and I'm kind of working my way through the map. The problem with these objectives, like C, is really open. There's not a whole lot of cover there, so they keep coming from all those sides. And with this grenade launcher, I'm at a disadvantage just from the height issue. So I'm moving over here to kind of clear. Now these are just the grunts. There's at least 4 enemy types. I think you see the melee ones in here at some point, but right now these are the grunts. They're kind of the quantity over quality, which is why they're kind of bumbling around like idiots. But the grenade launcher is really fantastic at clearing these big waves that you can see right there. And just to be clear with this is like the absolute easiest setting. It's almost kind of like the tutorial mission, and that was primarily because everyone that was playing this, you know, myself included, this is the first time that they had seen the game like with hands-on, right? And people were actually struggling quite a bit. This is not my first run that I did. I recorded probably about 3 or 4 before this that were definitely not as successful trying to get my bearings of what's going on. But this is like very, very easy mode. So this is probably like the mission that like the new players are going to do first. It's certainly not indicative of what the final difficulty is going to be like, because like I said, obviously there's at least 4 enemy types. You see 2 of them in here, and there's at least 2 more I saw in the trailer. So, you know, we have at least that to look forward to. I imagine the higher difficulties will come with more enemies and definitely some more aggressive ones. Because, like I said, the grunts are pretty stupid. They just kind of, you know, stumble towards you almost like zombies. So if you're wondering why it looks so easy, it's because it's supposed to be. If you had seen what the other players were doing while they were there, like I said, the first few times you give the game a shot, you kind of get wrecked. So it looks easy because this isn't the first time I've done it. You almost die right there. It gets a little hairy, as you can see. So the thing I put down on the ground is, I guess you could call it a nanohive if you want to use a Dust term. So it's restoring ammo, and it's healing my armor. From what I could tell in the demo, none of the suits had like a passive armor regen like they would in Dust with armor repairs. It was all kind of active repairing using that little nanohive thing. So it was repairing, it resupplies ammo, and interestingly enough, it was actually putting ammunition directly into my gun. I don't know if you can see that kind of in the feed, but like while I was standing and it was reloading my gun actively while I was doing it. So it's really nice for this grenade launcher because the reload animation is painfully long. It's only 4 shots. You got to reload a lot. It hits like a truck, but it's really a pain to reload. And I don't know if that's intentional or if that was just kind of for the demo to make it easier, but certainly an upgrade from the nano hives we had in Dust, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm trying to make my way back to C here to kind of clear him, but like you can see. So the big blue effect, that's kind of the unique ability. CCP Retired talked about like each class having something unique to it. So this is the Sentinel class. I know a lot of outlets out there are calling it the Logistics. That was a typo on the whole demo. It said Logistics for this, but it's definitely the Sentinel class. If you look at the model in like the ready screen, it says Sentinel. It looks like the Sentinel they showed off. So if you're thinking this is Logistics, it's not. Yeah. So yeah, that blue effect that you saw when I was kind of up on the balcony there, that's its unique ability called High G, and it's basically like siege mode from Eve. Basically, you're locked in place, you can't move while that's active, but your fire rates and apparently your reload speed like go through the roof while that's active. So it's kind of this like, you know, sit there, stand and deliver. It works really well if you drop that nano hive at your feet before you do it, because since you're healing, it's automatically refilling your weapon. Oh, there's a melee guy there. So he's kind of got the mantis arms on the shoulder there. I don't know if they do it in this playthrough, but when those melee guys charge you, they like to teleport side to side as they approach. Here we go. You might do it here. Yeah, like that. It's terrifying. Almost killed myself with the grenade launcher point blank. But yeah, no, it's obviously like the Sentinel having a nano hive is something kind of unusual for Dust players. I'm not sure if that was for the sake of the demo. Just because, like I said, it's everyone playing this together is new, so they didn't really have any clue what they're doing. Teamwork was kind of hard to coordinate with people you've never met before in a game you've never played. So 2 of the 3 classes had this nano hive. I think the Infiltrator with the sniper rifle is the only one that didn't have it. I'm almost getting creamed here. Yeah, this objective is just terrible. Like you get flanked on like 3 different sides, and there's not much to work with. I'm actually surprised to make it out of here alive. So yeah, the Sentinel High G mode is actually pretty cool. Like I said, it's kind of this like stand and deliver like mobile artillery sort of thing, which is pretty badass. The assault suit, and that's a different gameplay, has this like power slide, and that is it kind of like you kind of like go into this power slide, and oh, I do die there. Okay. And it kind of propels you forward, and it's really fast and a really far distance. And while I was playing, Rattati was kind of actually looking over my shoulder. He's like, yeah, we got to tone that speed and distance down. And I kind of agree. It feels a little ridiculous. But it's very satisfying, like when you do the slide, because while you're sliding, you can you can't change your direction so much, but you can actually spin and rotate and aim. So in one of the playthroughs, I slid and actually spun around mid-slide and shot the guy in the back, which was very satisfying. It felt really cool. So that was neat. And then the Infiltrator, it's a shotgunner there with that laser shotgun. The Infiltrator had like a hover ability, so you basically hold the jump button down and you would kind of glide. It was really easy to get across the map with that because you just kind of float from deck to deck. But yeah, all of the abilities they showed were actually pretty satisfying. You can see I'm building turrets there, and the turrets are actually quite important. Like they were talking about in the keynote, you know, each class kind of has like a schematic they fit to their drop suit, and that schematic lets you build these turrets. And there's some limitations, like if you've got one turret being built with like your Gatling gun schematic, you can't go and build a second Gatling gun. You gotta wait for the first one to finish, or the first one to be destroyed. I couldn't tell. So yeah, you can see the Sancha torpedoes coming in. So those things land and the Sancha come pouring out of it. So you can't tell exactly where they're going to land, but if you look up, you can kind of see sort of where they're going to be, and it kind of lets you plan ahead, which I imagine is going to be pretty important. But back to the turrets. So in this case, all the PvE is scaled for 4 people. We only had 3 in this playthrough, but it's meant to have 4. And there's 3 objectives, but that actually can increase with difficulty. So there's 3 here, but the higher difficulties will have up to 4 and 5. So at like high difficulty, you're looking at 5 objectives and only 4 people to cover them. So those turrets are going to be really critical to kind of bridge the gap and let you, autonomously defend some of these objectives. I love that hacking effect on the ground, but the arm animation needs some work. Yeah, that pistol is interesting. It takes some getting used to. I think the animation throws me off a little bit, but it seems like it does AoE damage. Like, when it looks like it's exploding on impact, from what I could tell, it was actually doing a little bit of splash damage to other enemies around. Just cleaning up there. That's an EMP turret. It stuns Sancha. As you can see, there's still a chunk of them clustered there. Really easy to mop them up with this grenade launcher. Supposedly in PvP, that EMP turret doesn't stun people, but it does, like, it messes up their HUD, like their crosshairs and stuff will disappear, and it kind of causes some adverse visual effects. So, you know, that could also be pretty devastating if you set it up right. Put the nanohive. There we go. I get the feeling that this grenade launcher looks... Obviously, balance wasn't really part of what they were going for here, but the grenade launcher is obviously really good at killing grunts. I get the feeling that these AoE weapons are kind of designed to do that. They're meant to clean up these swarm enemies. Because obviously, like you saw with the melee guy, it didn't work so well. He was kind of hard to hit, even with like a hit scan weapon, so a projectile was not working so well. And just going off of some of the other enemies we saw in the trailer, there was one with like a big shield on the front, and I don't know if, you know, a grenade launcher is going to be great at dealing with that, so we'll have to see. I think I use high G here. The fire rate really ramps up when you use it. I was talking to Rotati about it, and he's like, yeah, it really kicks ass with like a shotgun, because the fire rate goes so high that you can basically run up to like a high HP enemy and just launch high G and just unload into it with a shotgun. Works really well for dumping a lot of damage at once. But yeah, I'm eager to see the other enemy types. Like I said, with this one, it makes it look absurdly easy, because you can pretty much one-shot everything with it. But I'm hoping enemy variety kind of mixes that up and forces you to diversify. Because like I said, with higher difficulty, you've got 5 objectives. You're going to really have to coordinate well, kind of learn all your sight lines, see if someone can cover multiple objectives from, you know, the same position, where you're going to put different weapon types, different turrets. I think there's a lot of potential for team planning here, and you're not really seeing that with this, just because it's so damn easy that you don't really have to. The guy's fumbling trying to get his nanohive out. Melee was really hard to use. I was never good at melee in Dust, so I'm not I'm not good with it here. I'm sure some people will make it work, but it didn't really work for me. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, at this point, we've kind of decided we're just going to hold A and B. C was too tough to control, but like I said, A and B are so close, so you can kind of cover both at the same time. So these fleet battles on the side are kind of cool. I was talking to one of the devs, and he's saying that you'll actually see little fights pop up in the skybox. So you'll have like a group of Sancha ships fly in, and then the Minotaur ships will show up, and they'll have like a little mini space battle, and there's a winner. It can be, you know, random on who wins it, and then the loser blows up, and then the winner kind of warps off, and then, you know, more ships populate the sky. So you'll see some of these battles happening in the skybox, which is pretty cool. Obviously, I was a little more focused on on winning rather than looking in the sky, but it did look pretty cool. That pillar is like in the worst spot for that EMP. So the Sancha normally have blue, red helmets, but the blue ones are elites. They've got more HP, they do more damage. They're kind of like, I don't want to say mini bosses, but they definitely take more to kill. Like, it was usually 2 shots with the grenade launcher instead of 1. Some more melee guys. You know, they're not too hard to deal with, but I can only imagine if they start swarming you from multiple directions, they're really tough, because they're quiet and you don't hear them until they're pretty much stabbing you, which is a terrifying sound. I'm not sure if you're going to hear it much in this playthrough, but like the slashing is pretty freaky when you're not expecting it. What's really freaky is if you headshot the Sancha, they kind of make this like screeching scream. It's kind of haunting, though. I do hope we get the old dust gong sound back for a headshot. That was always the best. And we've got this pretty much on lockdown at this point. Like I said, I was kind of like, just forget about C. I only need 2 of the 3 objectives to win. But you can definitely hold all 3, and when you do, from what I could tell, the cannons up there, you just turned away from it, but the big cannons on the actual ship, like the artillery, will start to fire on that big phantasm that you see off in the distance there. So I'm curious if holding all of the objectives for long enough allows you to actually blow that enemy ship up, which would be really cool. Because these guns are absolutely huge. I mean, you can kind of see how far away we are from it. It's filling up, like, when I blow myself up, it's like filling up a big chunk of the sky there. Yeah, so like I said, in this case you can spawn on the objectives, kind of similar to Dust like that. But again, if you run out of objectives, like if the Sancha capture all 3, you can't respawn. So there's no hard spawn point. You have to hold an objective. And that's why that first objective when you first come in is so important, because if you don't get that, you are going to die. Yeah, I'm very keen on seeing how many enemies they can actually have, because like it's really sparse here. But again, like I said, this was like the very easiest mode. Like, this is probably the first mission a new player is going to do, so I'm curious on what this actually scales up to be. I imagine, just based off of the interview we had with Paul Wright over at Sumo Digital regarding how they're going to deal with difficulty and enemy AI, it's not just going to be more health and damage. It's got to be more, you know, interesting behaviors or more situations that are going to put the player at a disadvantage. So I'm really curious to see how big of groups they can get. Because I mean, like before, I came around in the corner and there was like maybe like a dozen right in that one spot. So I mean, they can clump up, and I can only imagine what, like I said, what a big group looks like, or different combinations. I mean, it reminds me a bit of how Doom does difficulty, where it's like they're going to not necessarily make the enemies stronger or have more HP, but they come in different combinations for different situations, which really puts you at a disadvantage. Like big shielded enemies blocking damage for the smaller ones behind them, stuff like that. mean, at this point, it's pretty well locked in. We're in pretty good shape. We'd have to really script while I lose this, but yeah, I wish you could see how fast it goes with all 3 objectives. It's tough with a group of 3 that isn't really coordinating that well. But yeah, I get a lot of commentary on this looking like it's just like a one-man army run and gun, and it's like, I just again want to stress, this is super very easy mode. Here goes hygiene mode. Yeah, that fire rate's just fantastic. Like that's gonna be a really interesting tool for the Sentinel. Be able to just park himself at a distance and just bombard. It's gonna be scary. But yeah, no, it's curious to see how this is gonna play out. Kind of in regards to what you're seeing, the big thing I want to note is that customization was not available to us in this build. Apparently, it was in the build. We just weren't told what to click to get to it because they kind of wanted us to stick to pre-made builds. They didn't want, for the demo, having a bunch of people trying to fiddle with fits and build suits, you know, in the middle of this. So they were pre-made fits. This way, you only had 3 to pick from. But they kind of wanted to give a well-rounded experience for, you know, the demo and what to expect, and not have people totally confused. Because, like I said, this is a lot to take in. There's a lot of kind of small rules you have to consider as you're playing this. But yeah, they simplified things a lot for this demo. So, you know, all of that customization stuff is still planned, of course. There is, you know, Dust-style customization in the works. And we'll be seeing, you know, what they have of that so far. Probably in the alpha, at the very least. So yeah, we reached 1,000 points, so we've defended the ship. So that's not the end of it, though. There is exfil, or exfiltration, we have to get to. And so we have to get to basically our little pod that we came in on, we have to escape to. And this, I actually had several runs where this is where we lost because we couldn't get there. So like we've won the match, so to speak, but there's kind of this bonus objective to get back to the exfil point, and you kind of hold it there for 60 seconds. But yeah, so like the definitely not all the features were in this gameplay at all. The customization wasn't shown, but that is absolutely planned as part of what's happening. And this is just a PvE experience. There's of course PvP, which was not available at the demo, unfortunately, but it was something they definitely wanted to do and talk about. And from my understanding, PvP will be available in the alpha. So if you get into the alpha, you will get to try the PvP. That is, you know, classic Dust, 16v16. It's, you know, probably on the same map. I'm expecting one map for PvP and PvE, just for testing purposes. There's no need to have more than one. But, yeah, let's go to exfil here. You can kind of see the suits strapping in there and taking off. And so, like I said, you don't have to exfil. You can still win by defending the shipping to 1,000 points. But I think there's a bonus if you actually get out. Not entirely sure what it is, but obviously it's kind of a stretch goal if you're successful. So that is kind of our gameplay. You know, like I said, it was a demo. It was there for the purposes of showcasing the quality of the gameplay, not necessarily the features of the content. It was, you know, like I said, it felt really good. It was a really tight experience. The controls were very responsive. The movement was good. Frame rate was rock solid. It just, you know, it was a really good moment-to-moment core shooter. It looks generic, obviously, because like the weapons that they show are the Upwell weapons. They're like the starter militia weapons. They're meant to be generic. But if you watch the keynote, he does showcase quite a few of more racially themed weapons, like the fusion torch and like the forge gun, scrambler rifle, or pulse rifle, whatever it's called now. So there is more of that. This is just, like I said, it was there for the demo. Like they wanted to show like the basic of the basic. And like Rattati said in his interview with us, their goal at this event was to show core gameplay. And in terms of that, I think they were absolutely successful. Like I said, the moment-to-moment shooting felt really good. Obviously, it was very easy, so it was a little on the boring side, but just from the perspective of someone who was there playing it, it was fun. You know, like I said, easy, but it was fun, and I'm really eager to try the higher difficulties when the alpha comes out, so that should be pretty exciting. But like I said, overall, really good experience. I am curious to see what else they have to work with. The way that they're scaling difficulty seems interesting. Obviously, they have quite a bit of planned content that's going to be kind of trickle-fed in as the alpha and beta progress, but overall, I think it's a really good start. I think it was a good showcase. Just as my perspective from, you know, being there and actually trying the game out. So if you guys like this, let me know, and I'll do a commentary on some of the other gameplay we have. But until then, see you next time.